It's worms and spinning and casting cranks to lay down some grass fields, and the river's trying to get the bass to bite. That gets me on the water in all different kinds of weather. That the river just keeps tackling on my mind. Hey everyone, welcome back to Tackle on My Mind. What's on my mind today? Bait cast reels. I'm going to give you a little tips and instructional video on best way that I know to use a bait cast reel. You can use it to expand your fishing a little bit. In the past, I've done some videos on how to get started kayak bass fishing. We talked about, the very basics of getting into that. I talked about using a spinning reel and a spinning rod with some worms and some other, worm type presentations. That'll work just fine. If you want to expand your fishing a little bit, you want to get into some more moving baits, use some different kind of lures and things like that, some crankbaits. I talked about that lipless crankbait. Good thing to use this time of year. You're going to want to use a bait caster. Before I get into that, however, I want to talk about something exciting for me. I was appointed to be, an ambassador for Omnia Fishing. If you're not familiar with Omnia Fishing, they're basically just an online fishing store. But some unique things about them is you can search by lake. So if there are some lakes in your area that maybe, on their app, then you can search by that lake. It'll pull up, and there are some reports on there that you can watch that someone may have fished that area before that by species. For me, it'd be, I'm looking for largemouth bass. Let's say what kind of report. Guy might have filled out a report. Hopefully it fits the time of year I'm looking, and then I can also see what kind of lures they're using. Then I can go to Omnia Fishing and purchase those lures. How does that affect me, and how can you help me out? And I'll put a link to this also into the description. Is if you happen to look on some of my lakes, you can search by that, and you see my report on there, and you go on there and click on that report. I get some points for that, and helps maybe make some purchases, and maybe help some things, do some giveaways in the future. And also, if you purchase some of the lures I used, then that'll help me out too, and I can turn that around and maybe help out the channel. Again, maybe getting into some of those giveaways, because if I get a discount on some lures, I'm more than likely happy to share those with you. Plus, it's just a good idea, kind of get to know lakes. It's nice to know sometimes before you get to a lake what kind of fishing is going to be on that lake. Are you going to have any success? We like to say, we all ask our friends, hey, what'd you catch out there today? So you can go to that app, Omnia Fishing. So again, I'll put some links down to that in the description. Okay, bait cast reels. Gotta get my dog over here. He thinks he's ready to chase the lure I got here. But I'm going to give you a little bit of up on this here. James, kind of get a little close in on this. Hey, so I just want you to see all this right here. See this reel here? It's a bait cast reel. Some people get intimidated by bait cast reels. They're really not that difficult. I want you to stay on this part here. James has helped me out filming again for me today. So, bait cast reel, the main things you need to know, there's a couple different braking styles that they use, plus there's a tension knob. You either have a centrifugal braking or there's magnetic braking. For starting out, I would look into something that is a magnetic brake, and that is a dial right here. It's got maximum and minimum. If you turn it all the way to maximum, that is braking the reel the whole way. It's holding down that reel. You can think of the magnets pushing against the reel from spinning. A bait cast reel, different than a spinning reel, is the whole spool, the whole turns when you release the lever here. So, see, that whole thing spins. Now, if your lure stops moving and you don't have this set right, it's going to continue to spin, and you're going to end up getting those nasty backlashes, which is what usually scares a lot of people away from having a bait caster. Not that difficult though, because you can use the brakes, and the way they are set up now, they are super easy to use. So the first thing I would recommend, Now get the tip, show the tip of there. I got a hollow body frog tied on here because I'm out in my yard and I'm going to do some casting in the grass. It's not going to get hooked up on anything. That's the only reason I have that. But you're going to start out, have that hanging down about a foot from the tip of your rod. Let's get back here on the reel then, James. This knob here is called the tension knob. Start out, crank that down all the way. Make sure this magnetic brake over here is all the way. Before I go too further, I mentioned centrifugal brakes. Centrifugal brakes are usually, that'll be inside this housing, which means you have to take this plate off to adjust that. They're on some higher end reels usually. Again, I don't like using them because mostly on the water, I adjust this quite frequently. In the wind and different conditions, I'll adjust this brake over here. And if I gotta take that off all the time, that adds time. Plus, it's very easy to lose that, and I don't feel like doing that. So you're gonna tighten all your brakes down all the way. And if you can I'm gonna release this thumb button here, and that's gonna release the reel. Now, because I got it tightened all, you're probably not gonna see that frog move. Staying right there, because my reel, all the brakes are on. Now, that tension knob, this one right here, now back on my frog, James, I'm gonna loosen that just a little bit at a time. And what I'm looking for is that frog to start free falling on its own. It comes to a dead stop at the bottom. That's exactly how you want it. Watch that again. So now I'm just gonna release that thumb button. And if you take a quick look at my reel here, no backlash. It stopped on its own the way I had that brake set. This time, just watch the reel, James. We'll let that go, and you're gonna, just by watching my reel, you'll know when that frog hits the ground. I'm gonna help it a little bit. It's a little tighter than I like it, but that's a good way to start out. I'm gonna back it off just a little bit more. It's gonna fall a little bit faster. Now, what you can do there is this time I want you to watch the reel again, because I'm gonna watch, I can kind of keep an eye on my frog, and I can stop this reel with my thumb. And I want to do that right as it hits its target area. And that way it keeps that from spinning. So that's another technique for casting. Let's tighten it up one notch, see what we get. It's not quite falling. I'm going to loosen it a little bit. Falls right down to the bottom. I bump it a little bit with my thumb. So now, casting. Casting's easy. Maybe get a whole big shot here of what we're doing here. So, to start out with, I'm going to push that lever down, but I'm going to hold my thumb on that reel because I don't want it slipping off of there yet. And then you just make a casting motion, send it out there. River, leave it. I got my dogs out here, and he likes chasing lures sometimes. You can just on me, James. We don't need to watch me reeling in the frog.
Sorry.
Catch anything. Well, you saw a river sit. So
sit, River.
Again, I hit that. We're going to do a short little cast here. I let go. I can put my thumb on when I think, River, leave it, when I think it's going to hit the ground. I can make a pretty lengthy cast with this. If I want to make longer, I loosen this up more. I can loosen this up also. Someone gave me a really good tip on the the tension knob and the brake system. I think this has really helped me, and hopefully it'll help you. Think of the tension controls the beginning of the cast, the initial casting, the initial spinning of that. The brake on this side, your magnetic brake, controls it towards the end. So it's almost like, okay, this, I loosen this up, that's control the beginning of the cast, it's flying through the air, and as it starts slowing down, as your bait starts slowing down through the air, then, you know, if you got this really tight, this is gonna slow down also, or even maybe if it's not slowing down very much, this is gonna start slowing down. So if you wanna increase some distance, you start loosening this up. In the wind, if you're casting into the wind, you think again, What stops, think of some things that are going to stop your bait from moving. Because remember, as soon as your bait stops moving, it doesn't mean the reel stops spinning. The reel's going to continue to spin as long as it has that motion going forward. So think of casting into the wind. While you're casting, all of a sudden the wind hits that lure. It may stop the lure from moving. Means this is spinning, but this isn't moving. You get a backlash. So the best way, so I did at the beginning, so when you release it, that's at the beginning. You can tighten this all the way to start out with. You can play with it as you're casting. But I'm going to also watch. River, come here. Come here. Come here. Good boy. I'm going to cast, and James, I want you to just keep your eye on my thumb right here, okay?
Okay.
Keep your eye right on that, because I'm going to put my thumb on there when I know this frog lure is ready to hit the ground, or obviously if I'm fishing, ready to hit the water. River, leave it. Okay, so there we have. There he is. I'm going to do it one more time for you. Keep your eye right on that. And I can stop that with my thumb. You get enough practice with it, and you get your things tuned in right, you'll get to the point where, so I get a little bit of backlash. I got to tighten one of these up a little bit. I'm going to tighten that one up a little bit.
Daddy, she's on the fence.
That's all right. We'll edit that part out. I got another dog who likes to get up on the fence. So we might edit that little comment of she's on the fence, but
sorry.
We're recording live.
I'm sorry.
Stop. See, look at that time. No backlash. River, drop it. River picked up the frog. Quick story, River's had a hook stubbed through his nose because he tried to pick up a lure one time. It was not fun. So there you have it. That's your basics of a bait caster. Now, when do you want to use a bait caster? Think of moving lures, your crankbaits, your spinner baits, your chatter baits, swim baits, anything like that. Your heavier baits a lot of times, because you can have a little more stout rod than you usually can with spinning gear. Think of spinning as some light tackle, usually some worm and things like that. The heavier your equipment gets, the more you're going to want to use bait cast, rod and reel. But you know, it's a lot of that for moving baits. If you think of, you know, you're using that crankbait while you're casting, reeling it in, casting, reeling it in, casting, reeling it in, catching a fish, fighting it on the way. Right hand or left hand? That's whatever your personal choice is. I'm right-handed. I don't know. I guess I like cranking with my right hand. Some people are right-handed, like cranking with your left hand. You know, your spinning reel, I crank with my left hand. I know people who are left-handed who like cranking with their right hand. So really it's personal preference. So, you know, you can get some fairly reasonably priced. Again, check those out. I'll put some links in the description for, you know, some lower end ones. You don't want to go super cheap though, because there's a lot of components in here. You want it to last you a while, and you want it to be easy to use. A bait caster can get frustrated at times because you do get those backlashes. I think the highest end level, best professional angler still gets a backlash once in a while. You learn to take them out. There's videos you can watch on that too. My rule on that is I know how to get most backlashes out. I hardly have had any that I had to take home with me and work them out there. It does happen once in a while, but if I know I can get them out in the water, I'm not quite so worried about it. It's kind of a nuisance sometimes, but I can do that. So that's how to use a bait caster. So thanks for joining our video here. Hit subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notifications, share it with a friend, spread the news. Don't forget to check out Omnia Fishing, get some fishing reports of some different lakes you might be trying out. I got a few on there right now for my lakes. I'm going to try to expand that. Obviously, the more fishing I do this year, I'll be doing more reports. Purchase some of those lures, kind of help us all out here. Really appreciate you joining us, and have a good day.